The sensor array chirped softly in the darkness of deep space. Commander Ralph barely glanced at the display as his flagship led 500 warships through the void between stars. Another primitive world waited ahead, ready to fall like all the others before it. The sovereign dominion had perfected the art of conquest over 3,000 years, and this latest target presented no challenge whatsoever. "Distance to the third planet?" Ralph asked, his four eyes studying the tactical hologram. "Approaching the outer system now, Commander," his tactical officer replied. "Initial scans confirm the intelligence reports. They broadcast electromagnetic signals into space, radio waves, primitive digital networks, no orbital defenses detected." Ralph allowed himself a satisfied gesture. The species called themselves humans. They had barely left their home world, managing only a few temporary structures on their moon and some probes scattered through their local system. The Dominion scouts had observed them for 6 cycles, watching their clumsy attempts at space exploration. They were children playing with toys, unaware that the real galaxy existed beyond their tiny corner of nothing. "Bring us to standard invasion formation," Ralph commanded. "All ships prepare bombardment solutions. We'll give them the usual offer first: surrender or destruction." The fleet moved with practiced precision, hundreds of vessels arranging themselves in a pattern that had broken the will of countless civilizations. Energy weapons charged, shields strengthened, troop carriers moved into position. Everything proceeded exactly as it always did. On Earth, Admiral Rebecca Harris watched the alien fleet materialize on her displays. Around her, the buried command center hummed with quiet activity as dozens of officers tracked every ship, every movement, every energy signature. She had waited 30 years for this moment. Humanity had prepared for 40. "Confirm all defense platforms are ready," she said calmly. "Confirmed, Admiral. Lunar batteries online, Mars grid active, asteroid field weapons armed and tracking, orbital defense ring standing by, all stealth vessels in position." Harris nodded. The aliens thought they were dealing with primitives who had barely discovered space travel. They had no idea that humanity had been listening to galactic radio chatter for 8 decades. Earth had watched the Dominion conquer system. After system studied their tactics, learned their technology, and built weapons specifically designed to tear their ships apart. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," her communications officer announced. "Put it through." Ralph's face appeared on the screen, translated by software that humanity had been perfecting for years. "Primitive inhabitants of the third planet, I'm Commander Ralph of the Sovereign Dominion. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. You will surrender all military forces, dismantle any weapons, and prepare to receive our occupation forces. You have 24 of your local hours to comply. Resistance will result in the complete annihilation of your species." Harris smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "I'm Admiral Rebecca Harris of the United Earth Defense Command. You have exactly 10 minutes to turn your ships around and leave our system. This is your only warning." Ralph's translator struggled with the response for a moment, as if it couldn't believe what it heard. Then the alien commander began to laugh. The sound echoed through Harris's command center, a wet, gurgling noise that his species made when amused. "Your bravado is entertaining, Admiral, but you don't understand the situation. We have 500 warships, you have nothing, except the inevitable." 9 minutes, Harris replied and closed the channel. On the flagship, Ralph's amusement faded. "Foolish creatures, all vessels advance to bombardment range, target their population centers, will show them the price of defiance." The Dominion fleet surged forward, crossing the orbit of the humans' outermost planets. Sensors swept ahead, finding nothing but empty space and a few automated probes. The tactical displays showed no threats, no weapons, no orbital fortifications, just a defenseless world waiting to fall. "Commander," the sensor officer said suddenly, "I'm detecting unusual readings near the 4th planet and in the asteroid field between the 4th and 5th planets." "Define unusual." "Energy signatures, hundreds of them, No, thousands, they're powering up. Ralph leaned forward. Show me. The hologram expanded, revealing a cloud of objects scattered through the asteroid belt. Each one began to glow with electromagnetic energy. More appeared near Mars, the red planet that humans had sent their primitive rovers to explore. Except these weren't primitive, these were weapons platforms, each one targeting a different ship in the Dominion fleet. Evasive maneuvers, Ralph shouted. All ships emergency scatter pattern. His order came 3 seconds too late. The asteroid belt erupted with light as thousands of railguns fired simultaneously. Solid projectiles, each one massing several tons and moving at 5% of light speed, crossed the distance in heartbeats. The Dominion shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb plasma fire, did absolutely nothing against simple kinetic bombardment. 50 warships exploded in the first volley. 50 more took critical damage as metal slugs punched through their hulls like paper. The fleet descended into chaos as ships desperately tried to avoid the storm of projectiles that filled space around them. Return fire, Ralph screamed. Destroy those platforms. Energy beams lanced out toward the asteroid belt, but the platforms were already moving, their courses calculated months in advance. They dodged and weaved through the debris field while continuing to fire. Every shot hit home. Every impact destroyed another Dominion vessel. Then Earth ships appeared. Sleek black vessels emerged from behind the moon, from the shadow of Mars, from hiding spots throughout the inner system. They were smaller than Dominion warships but faster, more maneuverable, and armed with weapons that the Galactic database had no record of. Admiral Harris watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Captain Anna Kozlov guided her destroyer through the debris field that had been 30 Dominion cruisers just minutes ago. Her crew worked in perfect silence. Each member focused on their task as targeting computers painted enemy ships across her displays. The aliens were scrambling, confused, unable to understand how a primitive species had torn through their fleet like tissue paper. Targeting solutions locked on 12 enemy vessels, her weapons officer reported. Fire when ready. The destroyer shuddered as electromagnetic pulse weapons discharged. Invisible waves of energy swept across space and 12 Dominion ships went dark simultaneously. Their shields collapsed. Their weapons fell silent. Their engines died. They drifted helplessly as human boarding craft launched toward them. Ralph watched in horror as his fleet disintegrated around him. 100 ships destroyed outright. Another 80 disabled and being boarded. The humans moved with precision that suggested extensive combat experience, yet Dominion intelligence insisted they had never fought in space before. Something was terribly wrong. Get me high command, he demanded. Emergency priority. While his communications officer scrambled to establish a connection, Ralph studied the battle data. The human weapons made no sense. Railguns powerful enough to achieve relativistic velocities. Electromagnetic pulse generators that bypassed standard shielding. And those ships, those impossibly fast ships that darted between his heavy cruisers like insects, picking them apart with surgical precision. Commander, High Command is responding. The face of Grand Admiral Nolt appeared, all 4 of his eyes radiating irritation. This had better be important, Ralph. You should be accepting the surrender of another primitive world, not bothering me with routine matters. There's nothing routine about this, Grand Admiral. The humans were waiting for us. They have weapons we've never encountered. I've lost over 100 ships in less than 10 minutes. Nolt's expression shifted from irritation to disbelief. That's impossible. Our intelligence showed no orbital defenses, no space fleet, no military capability beyond their planet's surface. The intelligence was wrong, Ralph shouted as another explosion rocked his ship. They hid everything. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, ships concealed in electromagnetic shadow zones. They knew we were coming and they prepared a trap. Another officer interrupted. Commander, multiple human vessels approaching our position. They're broadcasting a message. Play it. Admiral Harris's face filled the screen, her expression cold and hard. Dominion vessels, this is your final chance. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded or we will destroy you. You have 60 seconds to comply. Routh cut the channel and turned to Nolt. Grand Admiral, I need reinforcements. Send the reserve fleet. Send everything. Nolt studied the data streaming from Routh's ship. His expression grew darker as he processed the casualty reports and weapon analysis. No. What? I'm denying your request for reinforcements. If the humans have technology this advanced, sending more ships will only result in more losses. You're ordered to withdraw immediately with all surviving vessels. We can still win this, Routh protested. We still have 350 ships if we concentrate our fire. You will withdraw, Nolt interrupted. That's an order. Fall back to the rally point and await further instructions. The channel went dead. Routh stared at the blank screen, then at his tactical display. 350 ships, against an enemy that had destroyed a third of his fleet in minutes. An enemy that seemed to know exactly where every Dominion vessel would be before it got there. All ships fall back to Rally Point Omega, he ordered quietly. Maximum speed. The Dominion fleet began to retreat, but the humans weren't finished. Captain David Wright commanded a squadron of stealth destroyers that had been waiting behind the fleeing aliens. His ships activated their engines and surged forward, invisible to Dominion sensors until they opened fire at point-blank range. 20 more alien ships exploded before they realized they were under attack from behind. The rest scattered in panic, their organized retreat collapsing into chaos. Human fighters swarmed through the gaps, their pilots executing maneuvers that would have killed most galactic species from the acceleration forces alone. On Mars, Colonel Michael Santos watched the battle from the weapons control center buried beneath the planet's surface. Target the cruisers trying to reach jump distance. Don't let any of them escape clean. The Martian defense grid came alive. What the Dominion had assumed were terraformed stations were actually massive railgun batteries, each one capable of launching projectiles across millions of kilometers with perfect accuracy. The red planet itself became a weapon, hurling death at the retreating fleet. Routh's flagship shook as a projectile grazed their shields, the impact sending crew members sprawling across the deck. Damage report. Shields at 40%. Hull breach on Deck 7. Engineering reports power fluctuations in the main drive. Another human ship appeared directly ahead, materializing out of nowhere. Routh realized with sick certainty that they had stealth technology too, something the Dominion had spent centuries trying to develop. These weren't primitives. These were predators who had studied their prey and prepared the perfect ambush. Emergency jump, he ordered. Now. Commander, we're not at safe distance. I said now. The flagship's hyperspace drive engaged, tearing a hole in reality and pulling the vessel through. Half the surviving Dominion fleet followed, making dangerous short-range jumps just to escape the slaughter. The other half wasn't fast enough. Human ships surrounded them, weapons charged, engines thrumming with power. Admiral Harris opened a channel to the trapped Dominion vessels. This is Admiral Harris. You invaded our system without provocation. You threatened to exterminate our species. Now you'll learn why humanity didn't reach out to the galaxy sooner. We were too busy preparing to defend ourselves from species exactly like you. Surrender now or die. One by one, the Dominion ships powered down their weapons. Their commanders knew when they were beaten. Earth had won the first battle, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days after the battle, Routh sat in the brig of a human warship, his defeat complete. Through the transparent wall of his cell, he watched human crew members move with casual efficiency, speaking in their simple language, laughing occasionally as if they hadn't just destroyed the pride of the Dominion fleet. The contrast unsettled him deeply. A human female approached his cell. She wore a simple uniform with minimal decoration, but something in her bearing suggested authority. Commander Ralph, I'm Ambassador Patricia Moore. I'd like to talk. Come to gloat, Ralph asked bitterly. No, I came to offer you a choice, she gestured, and a holographic display appeared between them. This is your fleet's current status. Of the 500 ships you brought to our system, 73 survived intact. Another 42 are heavily damaged but repairable. The rest were destroyed or captured. Your casualties number over 2 million. Ralph said nothing. The numbers spoke for themselves. Patricia continued. In 3 hours, we're sending you home. Your ship, your surviving crew, and a message for your Grand Admiral. You're going to tell them exactly what happened here. You're going to explain that Earth is not primitive, not defenseless, and absolutely not interested in joining their empire. And if I refuse, then we'll send someone else with the message. But I think you understand better than most what humanity is capable of. That makes you valuable as a messenger. She paused. We're not monsters, Commander. We didn't want this war. You brought it to us. Ralph met her eyes. Your species shouldn't possess this technology. You've barely left your own planet. How did you develop weapons that can defeat Dominion ships? Patricia smiled slightly. We're good listeners. 80 years ago, we detected the first radio signals from your empire. Since then, we've been monitoring every broadcast, every transmission, every public communication across dozens of species. We learned your languages. We studied your technology. We watched you conquer world after world and asked ourselves one question: what happens when you find Earth? You've been spying on the entire galaxy. We prefer the term gathering intelligence, and it saved our species. We knew the Dominion's ships used energy shields calibrated for plasma weapons, so we built kinetic weapons. We knew your sensors operated on specific frequencies, so we developed stealth technology using different principles. We knew your tactics relied on overwhelming firepower from long range, so we designed fast ships optimized for close combat. Ralph slumped against the wall. You built your entire military specifically to counter ours. Not just yours, we prepared for every major galactic power. The Krellian Hive, the Torth Collective, the Free Merchants Alliance. We have contingency plans for all of them. Patricia's expression hardened. Earth learned a long time ago that peace requires preparation. We've had 2 world wars, countless smaller conflicts, and came close to destroying ourselves with nuclear weapons. Those experiences taught us to never be caught defenseless. A human officer approached and spoke quietly to Patricia. She nodded and turned back to Ralph. Your ship is ready. Before you go, there's something you need to see. She led him through the corridors under guard. Ralph noticed the ship's design, how everything was built for function rather than intimidation. Human vessels looked nothing like Dominion warships with their elaborate decorations and imposing architecture. These ships were tools, weapons, built by beings who understood war intimately. They entered a viewing gallery. Beyond the windows, Ralph saw a massive construction site in orbit around Earth's moon. Thousands of vessels worked together, assembling a structure that dwarfed anything the Dominion had built. What is that? He asked. Our new orbital shipyard, Patricia replied. We're expanding our fleet. The 73 ships you encountered were just our rapid response force. We're building 300 more, along with defense platforms for our outer colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Within 5 years, Earth will have a space fleet capable of defending our entire system against any threat. You're militarizing your species. We're ensuring our survival. There's a difference. She turned to face him directly. Here's the message you'll deliver to your Grand Admiral. Earth claims this entire star system as sovereign territory. Any unauthorized vessel entering our space will be considered hostile and destroyed without warning. We're willing to establish peaceful diplomatic relations, but only as equals, not as subjects, not as subordinates, equals. Ralph's translator struggled with the term. In Dominion culture, there were only conquerors and the conquered. The concept of equal powers negotiating was foreign, almost incomprehensible. Your Grand Admiral won't accept those terms, he said. Then there will be more battles, and Earth will win them. Patricia's voice carried absolute certainty. We've run the simulations thousands of times. We know your fleet dispositions, your supply lines, your strategic resources. If the Dominion comes back, we won't fight defensively. We'll strike at your colonies, your shipyards, your home worlds. We have weapons your scientists haven't even theorized yet. You're bluffing. Am I? Patricia gestured to the window again. We turned Mars into a weapons platform. We hid an entire fleet in our own system for decades. We developed technology the galaxy said was impossible. Do you really want to test whether I'm bluffing? Ralph stared at the growing shipyard, at the organized chaos of human industry and determination. He thought about the battle, how thoroughly Earth had dismantled his fleet, how they had known exactly where to strike, exactly when to attack, exactly how to exploit every weakness. No, he admitted quietly, I don't think you're bluffing. Good, then we understand each other. Patricia signaled the guards. Take him to his ship. Commander Ralph, I hope this is the last time we meet in conflict, but if it's not, remember what you saw here today. As the guards escorted him away, Ralph took one final look at Earth through the gallery windows. The blue planet seemed so peaceful, so innocent. But now he knew the truth. Humanity had prepared for war while pretending to be harmless. They had watched and waited and built weapons in the shadows. The galaxy had no idea what it had awakened. Grand Admiral Nolt watched the recorded message for the third time, his 4 eyes narrowing with each viewing. Ralph's battered flagship had limped back to Dominion space carrying news that would shake the Empire to its foundation. The Council of High Command had assembled in emergency session, their faces reflecting various degrees of shock and disbelief. This is unacceptable, High Commander Vraxis declared, slamming his manipulator appendage against the table. A primitive species destroys our fleet and makes demands. We should send the entire armada and reduce their world to ash. Did you not watch the recording? Nolt asked quietly. They were prepared for us. They studied our tactics for decades and built weapons specifically designed to counter our technology. Sending more ships without understanding how they defeated us would be foolish. Then what do you suggest? That we accept their terms, allow them to claim an entire star system and establish themselves as an independent power? Vraxis's voice dripped with contempt. We've conquered 800 systems. We don't negotiate with primitives. Nolt brought up a holographic display showing the battle data recovered from the surviving ships. Look at this. Kinetic weapons traveling at 5% light speed. Electromagnetic pulse technology that bypassed our shields. Stealth systems we still can't explain. Gravitational manipulation that shouldn't be possible with their level of development. These are not primitives. These are survivors who learned to weaponize everything. Another council member, High Commander Celtes, studied the data carefully. Their combat footage shows something else. Their pilots performed maneuvers that would kill most species from the acceleration forces. Their soldiers boarded our ships and overpowered our marines in close combat. They have physical advantages we didn't account for. Because we assumed they were weak, Nolt said. Our intelligence reported a species that had barely left their home world. What we didn't realize is that they chose isolation deliberately. They were watching us the entire time, learning, preparing. The council chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. A species had observed galactic civilization for decades. Without revealing themselves, building a military force specifically designed to defeat the Dominion. It suggested a level of patience and strategic thinking that most council members found disturbing. What about the other powers? Vraxis asked finally. The Krellian Hive, the Torth Collective. If they learn about this defeat, our reputation will be damaged. Other species might rebel, thinking they can resist if humans could. Nolt had considered this already. Then we control the narrative. We announce that Earth has been contacted and established as a neutral system. We frame it as a diplomatic success rather than a military defeat. Only the Council knows the truth. You want to hide our failure. I want to prevent panic and maintain stability. If word spreads that a single world destroyed half a conquest fleet, every subjugated species in our empire will start wondering if they could do the same. Nolt brought up images of Earth's orbital shipyard. Besides, the humans made their position clear. They want to be left alone. They're not trying to liberate our colonies or challenge our authority elsewhere. Why provoke a war we might not win? Vraxis stood abruptly. You're afraid of them. Yes, Nolt admitted without shame. And you should be too. They turned their entire moon into a military base. They weaponized Mars. They hid thousands of weapon platforms in an asteroid belt, and we never detected them. What else are they hiding? What other weapons have they developed? Do you really want to find out? The Council exchanged glances. Fear was not an emotion Dominion commanders acknowledged easily, but the battle data was undeniable. Earth had not simply defeated the invasion fleet. They had humiliated it, destroyed it with such efficiency that it suggested the humans had been holding back, testing their weapons on live targets. Celtes spoke carefully. If we accept their terms and establish diplomatic relations, we could learn their technology. Trade agreements, cultural exchange, eventually they might share their scientific advances. Or we could study their weaknesses, Vraxis added, warming to the idea. Open diplomatic channels, observe their society, find vulnerabilities. Then, when we understand them better, we strike with overwhelming force. Nolt considered this. It was a dangerous game, but perhaps the only viable option. Very well, we'll send Ambassador Kelrath to establish formal contact. His orders will be to negotiate a non-aggression treaty while gathering intelligence. We'll tell the rest of the galaxy that Earth is a newly discovered species with advanced technology worthy of diplomatic relations. And if the humans see through this? Celtes asked. They probably will. They've been spying on us for 80 years. They're not naive. Nolt brought up Patricia Moore's face from Ralph's recording. But they offered peaceful relations as equals. We'll accept their offer and see what develops. Perhaps we can coexist, perhaps not. Either way, we buy time to understand them better. The Council voted, and the decision was made. The Dominion would not seek revenge for its defeat. It would not send more fleets to Earth system. Instead, it would swallow its pride and establish diplomatic relations with a species that had been invisible until it chose to reveal itself. As the Council dispersed, Nolt remained in the chamber, studying Earth's blue sphere on his display. Somewhere on that world, Admiral Harris and her staff were likely discussing this exact meeting, predicting Dominion responses, preparing for every possible outcome. The thought unsettled him profoundly. Humanity had observed galactic civilization for generations without being noticed. They had learned languages, studied cultures, analyzed military capabilities, all while remaining hidden. What kind of species developed that level of patience and paranoia? The answer came to him slowly. A species that had survived its own self-destructive tendencies. A species that had nearly destroyed itself and learned caution. A species that understood the galaxy was dangerous because they recognized danger in themselves. Nolt made a note in his personal log. First contact with Earth represents a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. Recommend extreme caution in all future dealings. Humanity possesses not only advanced technology but strategic thinking that surpasses our own. They are survivors, and survivors are the most dangerous beings in the universe. He closed the log and left the chamber, wondering if the Dominion had just made its greatest mistake by trying to conquer Earth, or if its greatest mistake would be accepting peace with beings who saw war as clearly as humans apparently did. Ambassador Kelrath's shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, his diplomatic team silent as they processed the unprecedented nature of their mission. The Dominion had conquered hundreds of worlds, but never before had they sent an ambassador to negotiate with a species that had defeated them militarily. The humans had insisted on Earth itself for the first meeting, and High Command had agreed, however reluctantly. Below, the planet revealed itself in stunning detail. Vast oceans, multiple continents, cities that glowed with artificial light. But Kelrath's trained eye noticed the military installations scattered across the surface, the orbital platforms that tracked his shuttle with obvious targeting systems, the fighter craft that had escorted them from the moment they entered the system. They're not hiding their military presence, his aide observed nervously. No, Kelreth agreed. They want us to see it. They want us to know exactly how prepared they are. The shuttle landed in a facility outside a human city they called Geneva. Kelrath stepped onto alien soil for the first time, breathing air that tasted different from any world in Dominion space. A delegation of humans waited, led by Ambassador Moore and accompanied by Admiral Harris herself. "Welcome to Earth," Patricia said, her translator rendering the greeting in Dominion Standard. "We hope this visit will mark the beginning of peaceful relations between our peoples." Kelrath performed the traditional Dominion greeting, which Patricia returned with surprising accuracy. Someone had taught her proper diplomatic protocols. Of course they had. These humans had been studying galactic culture for decades. The negotiations took place in a conference room with windows overlooking the surrounding mountains. Kelrath noticed immediately that the humans had positioned him so he could see a military base in the valley below, where aircraft practiced combat maneuvers. Another subtle reminder of their capabilities. "Your terms are clear," Kelrath began. "Earth claims this entire star system as sovereign territory. You want diplomatic recognition as an independent power. You're willing to establish trade and cultural exchange, but military technology remains restricted." He paused. "These are not typical terms for first contact." "We're not a typical species," Admiral Harris replied. "We've been watching the galaxy long enough to know how first contact usually works. A stronger power absorbs a weaker one. We're ensuring that doesn't happen here." Kelrath decided on a direct approach. "You know we'll try to learn your weaknesses. You know we'll study your defenses, your technology, your society. You know that some in the Dominion still want revenge for the fleet you destroyed." Patricia smiled. "Of course we know. Just like you know that we've already identified every major Dominion military installation within 50 light years. We know where your shipyards are, where your supply depots are located, which colonies are most vulnerable. Mutual understanding prevents conflict, Ambassador. We're both aware of the stakes." The casual revelation of Earth's intelligence capabilities made Kelrath's diplomatic training falter for a moment. "You're saying you could strike at Dominion territory if provoked." "We're saying we've prepared for every possibility," Harris corrected. "Including peaceful coexistence. We prefer that option, but we're not naive enough to assume it's guaranteed." Over the following days, Kelrath toured various human facilities with carefully supervised access. He visited the lunar base where Admiral Harris coordinated Earth's defense network. He saw the Martian installations where Colonel Santos commanded weapons capable of striking targets across the solar system. He observed the orbital shipyards where new vessels took shape daily. What struck him most wasn't the military hardware, though that was impressive enough. It was the humans themselves. They came in remarkable variety, different skin colors, different languages, different cultures. Yet they worked together with efficiency that suggested deep cooperation. The Dominion achieved unity through conquest and enforced conformity. Earth seemed to have found unity while maintaining diversity. "How many nations govern your world?" he asked Patricia during a dinner meeting. "Currently about 200 sovereign nations, though many cooperate through larger alliances. When your fleet appeared, we unified under a common defense command, but each nation maintains its independence." "That should make you weaker, divided." "It makes us stronger. Different perspectives lead to innovation. When we faced the challenge of defending against galactic threats, we drew on ideas from every culture, every scientific tradition, every military philosophy. Diversity became our advantage." Kelrath thought about the Dominion's rigid hierarchy, its insistence on cultural uniformity across all conquered worlds. "An interesting theory." "It's not theory, it's how we survived." Patricia gestured to the city visible through the window. "Humans almost destroyed ourselves a century ago. Nuclear weapons, climate damage, resource wars. We came very close to extinction. What saved us wasn't uniformity. It was learning to work together despite our differences. When we detected the first alien signals, we applied those same lessons to preparing for contact." On his final day, Kelrath met with a human scientist named Dr. Rachel Foster. She headed Earth's gravitational research program, the same technology that had devastated Dominion ships during the battle. "I can't share technical specifications," she said apologetically, "but I can discuss the theoretical basis. Humans have always been good at weaponizing physics. Nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, biological weapons. When we learned that galactic species relied on energy-based technology, we focused on alternatives. Kinetic weapons, electromagnetic pulses, gravity manipulation. Exactly, we looked at what the universe provides naturally and asked how to weaponize it. Asteroids become missiles. Electromagnetic fields become shields and weapons. Gravity wells become traps. We didn't invent new physics. We just applied existing principles in ways the galaxy hadn't considered." Kelrath realized the disturbing truth. Humanity's advantage wasn't superior technology. It was creative thinking born from desperation and diversity. They had taken fundamental physics and used it in unexpected ways because they weren't bound by galactic conventions. When his shuttle lifted off from Earth 3 days later, Kelrath carried detailed reports for High Command. His recommendation was simple: accept Earth's terms completely. Establish peaceful relations. Never threaten humanity again. Because he had seen the determination in their eyes, the casual competence in their movements, the quiet confidence of beings who had survived their own worst instincts and emerged stronger. The Dominion could potentially defeat Earth through overwhelming numbers, but the cost would be catastrophic. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Kelrath suspected the humans had weapons they hadn't revealed yet, capabilities they were keeping secret for the day someone was foolish enough to truly threaten them. Earth had won more than a battle. They had won the right to exist on their own terms, and the galaxy would have to adjust. 5 years after the battle, Admiral Rebecca Harris retired from active military service. She stood in her office at Lunar Command for the last time, looking at Earth through the reinforced windows. The planet seemed peaceful from this distance, but she knew better. Humanity had not relaxed its vigilance. If anything, Earth had become more prepared, more capable, more ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. Captain Anna Kozlov, who had fought in the original battle, entered the office. She would be taking over command of the defense network, continuing the work Harris had started. "The Galactic Council sent another invitation," Anna said, handing over a data pad. "They want Earth to join formally, send representatives, participate in interspecies governance." Harris read the message and smiled. "5th invitation this year. What's our status on the expansion program?" "Shipyard production is ahead of schedule. We now have 420 vessels in active service, with another 100 under construction. Mars colony passed 1 million permanent residents last month. The Jupiter station is fully operational. We've established monitoring posts in 16 nearby star systems, all concealed." "Good. Send the Council our standard response. We appreciate the invitation, but Earth prefers to maintain independence for now. We'll continue diplomatic relations and cultural exchange, but we're not ready to integrate into galactic politics." Anna nodded, though she looked curious. "Do you think we'll ever join? The Council could benefit from human perspectives." "Maybe eventually, when we're certain it won't compromise our security." Harris gestured to the star field beyond the window. "We spent 80 years watching the galaxy before revealing ourselves. We're not about to rush into alliances we don't fully understand." Across the galaxy, the Battle of Earth had become legendary, though the details varied depending on who told the story. Some species spoke of humanity's brilliant tactical planning. Others focused on their advanced technology. A few whispered about human ruthlessness and the complete destruction of the Dominion fleet. In a bar on the Krellian trade station, a merchant named Polt shared drinks with colleagues from a dozen different species. The conversation inevitably turned to Earth, as it often did when traders gathered. "I heard they can manipulate gravity itself," a Torth engineer said. "Create artificial black holes to trap enemy ships." "That's exaggerated," Polt replied. "But I've seen their cargo vessels, Fast, efficient, built like warships even though they're supposedly civilian craft. Every human ship is designed for combat if necessary. A Krellian navigator chimed in. My cousin works in the diplomatic corps. She says humans are the most paranoid species she's ever encountered. They map every system they visit, catalog every ship they see, analyze every piece of data obsessively. Can you blame them? Polt asked. They watched the Dominion conquer hundreds of worlds before deciding to reveal themselves. They learned caution the hard way. I heard Earth has defense platforms hidden throughout their system, another trader added. Thousands of weapons just waiting, and their lunar base is actually a fortress that could hold off an entire fleet. The conversation continued, speculation mixing with facts, but one thing was clear. Earth had changed the galactic balance of power. No longer could major empires assume that isolated worlds were helpless. Humanity had proven that preparation and innovation could overcome raw military might. On Earth itself, life continued with surprising normalcy. Dr. Rachel Foster taught physics at a university in London, her students unaware that she had helped design weapons that changed galactic warfare. Colonel Michael Santos retired to a farm in Argentina, growing crops on land his family had worked for generations. Lieutenant Amy Tanaka opened a flight school in Tokyo, training the next generation of pilots. But beneath the surface, Earth remained ready. The defense network operated around the clock. Shipyards never stopped production. Intelligence agencies monitored galactic communications constantly. Research facilities pushed the boundaries of known science, developing new technologies that would keep humanity ahead of potential threats. Patricia Moore, now Earth's permanent ambassador to the Galactic Council, attended a reception on the neutral station where diplomatic meetings occurred. She mingled with representatives from dozens of species, listening to their conversations, observing their interactions, gathering information as humans always did. Ambassador Kelreth approached her, his diplomatic smile carefully neutral. Ambassador Moore, always a pleasure. Ambassador Kelreth, how are things in Dominion space? Peaceful, prosperous. We've established trade agreements with several species that Earth might find interesting. He paused. The Council is curious about human intentions. You've built an impressive fleet but shown no interest in expansion. Some wonder what you're planning. Patricia met his eyes. We're not planning anything except survival. Earth learned long ago that the best way to maintain peace is to be too strong to attack. We have no territorial ambitions beyond our own system. And yet you maintain monitoring stations in other systems. Your intelligence network rivals our own. Knowledge isn't aggression. We watch because we refuse to be surprised again. If that makes some species uncomfortable, perhaps they should examine their own intentions. Kelrath's expression shifted slightly, what passed for amusement among his people. You know, 5 years ago I thought humanity was the most dangerous species I'd ever encountered. Now I think you might be the most necessary. Explain. The galaxy has been stagnant for millennia. The same powers dominating the same territories, following the same patterns. Earth disrupted that. You proved that innovation matters more than tradition, that preparation defeats arrogance, that a single determined species can change everything. He gestured around the reception. These diplomats are more careful now, more thoughtful, because they know there might be other Earths out there waiting, watching, preparing. Patricia considered his words. Is that what the Dominion tells itself, that losing was actually beneficial? No, we tell ourselves that we're fortunate Earth wanted peace instead of revenge. Your fleet could have struck at our territory while we were recovering. You chose not to. That speaks well of human restraint. We're not interested in becoming conquerors. We've seen what that leads to. Patricia smiled slightly. But we'll never be victims either. That's the message Earth wants the galaxy to understand. As the reception continued, Patricia watched the various species interact. Some approached her with curiosity, others with caution. All of them aware that humanity had changed the rules of galactic civilization simply by refusing to be conquered. On Earth, Admiral Harris watched the news feeds showing Patricia's diplomatic work. The younger generation was growing up in a galaxy that knew humanity, existed, that respected Earth's sovereignty, that understood the price of threatening human territory. It wasn't the future Harris had expected when she first detected alien signals all those decades ago. But it was a future where humanity survived and thrived on its own terms, where Earth's children could look at the stars not with fear but with cautious optimism. The Dominion had dared to invade Earth. Humanity had wiped them out and emerged as a galactic power. But more importantly, they had proven that preparation, innovation, and determination could overcome any threat. That lesson would echo across the stars for generations to come, a reminder that the galaxy belonged to those strong enough to defend their place in it.